The Embraer E2 family is a glorious making of Embraer, a notable Brazilian aviation organization. Yet in spite of this multitude of accomplishments, there is one region in which the E2 series has been deficient. Its organization book. However, this could change sooner than later on the grounds that the E2 outclasses its rivals in one significant field and is prepared to make a sensational rebound. So what changed? To figure out this, we need to travel once more into the past. Back in 2002, Embraer decided to construct a bigger local fly in the wake of areas of strength, foreseeing deals of their ERJ family during the 90s. They chose to contend with Canada's Bombardier. This would prompt the advancement and send off of Embraer's most fruitful fly. Till date, the E175 quick forward to 2013, and Embraer declared that building a successor was going to their exceptionally fruitful ejet at the Paris flying demonstration. This game is somewhat of a shock to numerous since the Egypt was still generally youthful anyway. Embraer didn't actually have a decision you see around a similar time. Bombardier fostered the C-Series, which added market strain to Airbus to foster its A320neo, and that compelled Boeing into fostering the 737 MAX series. This huge chain response brought about by Bombardier wound up in the long run with the Canadian airplane maker leaving business. Aeronautics, their C-Series, turned into the Airbus A220 that we as a whole know well today and is one of Airbus' top-selling airplanes. However, how does all of this tie into Embraer? Well, when Airbus assumed control over the Bombardier's C-Series and started with the creation of the A220, it constrained Boeing furthermore. Embraer to seek after a consolidation to make its own armada of provincial planes. This move would ultimately prompt the E2 program. Anyway, this consolidation never happened. That is on the grounds that Boeing left the manage Embraer at the level of the pandemic, who was logical, the reason for the MAX C emergency that brought about Boeing leaving the arrangement, later experiencing more than 1,000 retractions of its maximum series. Luckily, Embraer chose to push on with its E2 program, which is significantly more than a basic emphasis of its ancestor, the E stream. No truth be told, Embraer has moved forward, it's down and based upon the outcome of the E1, and planned the E2 stream to be a genuine hero in the provincial stream class. You see, Embraer decided to enhance and work on the plan of its ancestor, the ejet. It would center around two key components, making the E2S calmer and more productive than any rival in the field. And it shows to get going. Embraer has kept something similar fuselage, yet rather than enhance the motor's landing gear, and new wings, the last option being one of the most huge changes, as well as quite possibly of the most disputable ones. You see, Embraer chose that each model of the E2 family has its own wing plan, which is novel, since for most airplane families, wings are standard across the airplane type. Yet, Embraer understood that it was critical to plan the most proficient wing for every individual from the E2 family independently. This implies that the E2 has 3 various wings explicitly planned. Furthermore, upgraded for every individual E2 airplane, and its weight, the E2 new wing has the greatest viewpoint proportion, and it's the longest wings for their airplane size. To place this in context, the past age ejet, the E195, has a wingspan of 94 feet and 3 inches. Their improved E195 E2 fly has a wingspan of 115 feet and 2 inches, making it fundamentally bigger by zeroing in on enhancing these highlights. Undeveloped organism delivered what is presumably the most Earth-cordial stream to date. However, why go through this work? Well, as indicated by undeveloped organism, the more wings will deliver lower drag. Furthermore, drag is shortcoming and clamor. So by expanding its wingspan, they got the best fuel utilization you can get for their kind of airplane. It's pretty shrewd when you consider it. Yet they didn't stop there and redid the motor. Also, you see the E2 is fueled by 2 Pratt & Whitney PW1900G motors, and despite the fact that it utilizes similar warm turbofan motors as found on the Airbus A220, it is undeniably more productive with its pushed. That is on the grounds that Embraer centers around improving its plan, so the push expected from the motor is less, bringing about less fuel consume and less commotion from the motors. So despite the fact that the A220 can fly farther, the E2 accomplishes a superior eco-friendliness as an issue of reality. The E2 has an improvement of 17.5% preferred eco-friendliness over its ancestor, the E1. This is an astounding improvement and shows Embraer's scrupulousness. Yet, regardless of the E2's remarkable highlights and progressions, its requests have been falling behind. It's at a more slow speed than it was with the E1, and it's not exactly a shock when we look a piece nearer. You see, Embraer is in a comparable circumstance as Airbus was with the A330 and A330neo. That is on the grounds that the substitution model, the E2 family, showed up on the scene sooner than its ancestor had matured out. Yet not just that the Brazilian airplane producer is confronting different difficulties also that amounts to the central concern they're managing the U.S. scope statement, which doesn't permit the E175E2, the redesigned adaptation of their best stream, the E175, to work in U.S. territorial aircrafts. As a matter of fact, it's so awful that 0 E175E2 models have been sold. What's more, it appears to be that the plane is deferred till 2027. Then there is the bombed managed Boeing, which put Embraer straightforwardly up against Airbus. And afterward, there is, of course, the pandemic, which had scaled back the aircraft's armada development and reestablishments. It's nothing unexpected. Then actually that the E2 has developed gradually. However, this is where the story goes off in a strange direction. And for that, we want to go to the third most active air terminal in Europe. Amsterdam Air Terminal, known as Schiphol to the Dutch, is one of Europe's most active air terminals. It's a clamoring center of movement where planes take off and land, as it accuracies home to KLM, illustrious Dutch aircrafts which works most of the openings presently envision that accuracy upset the beat broken. That is the truth we're confronting today as the Dutch air terminal is constrained by the public authority to cut flights by a stunning 12 because of commotion contamination. And the environment understanding this denotes a huge defining moment in the realm of flight, as it's the first time that an administration constrained a significant air terminal, like Amsterdam Air Terminal, to cut flights. For what reason is this pertinent to the E2's rebound? You could think, well, as you definitely know, the undeveloped organism, E2, has come with effective updates that makes the E2 family the most naturally cordial fly to date. Anyway, there is one significant field in which it genuinely sticks out, and that is murmur calm activity. You see, commotion, contamination has become one of the greatest issue of neighborhood networks living close to air terminals as additional planes take to the skies. The clamor levels have taken off in that capacity. Associations like the Global Common Aeronautics Association make the impediment of airplane clamor a high need. That is the reason you have commotion guidelines which are ensured by controllers like EEC and the FAA and are delivered in sections back in 2008. The commotion guidelines was at Section 4. It requested that airplanes bring down their clamor levels by 10 EPM decibels, which represents powerful scene commotion in decibels. The E2 was dependably consistent with Part 4 at every turn anyway. That was not enough for Embraer, so they ensured that their E2 model was future evidence. So at the point when the new and current norm for new airplane went up to Section 14, it caused a ruckus apiece by requiring a further decrease of 7 EPNdB. Yet as it turns out, the E2 had previously met the guidelines for consistency without making any progressions to the plane. The ERASA and the FAA gave their endorsement in August and October of 2020. This goes to show how fastidious the E2's plan was also. It doesn't stop there, for instance, by working their designing marvels. And Brian figured out how to take out clamor from the wheel well by adding an exceptional cover. Furthermore, think about what this not just quieted the E2, yet additionally worked on its streamlined features because of their tender loving care. Embraer has achieved something very remarkable in the restricted mechanical market. It is authoritatively the calmest single passageway stream on the planet. As a matter of fact, the E2 is so calm that travelers mentioned the Lodge Group to hold their voices down, as their discussions could be heard. It shows when contrasted with its immediate contender, Airbus. When contrasted with the Airbus A22300, the nearest contender, the E195E2, is an incredible 11 calmer than the A2230. The distinction turns out to be even more noteworthy, assuming we look at the E190 E2 against the A321. The E190 E2 measures 28 lower. Be that as it may, how does this advantage carriers? Well, for one, adaptability. More extensive planes open up additional opportunities for carriers. Downtown area air terminals might be advantageous for travelers, yet they have severe commotion control to keep everybody living in the city. Blissful, take London for instance, which brought an airplane commotion arrangement conspire in 2018 to restrict the airplane that fly there. And we should not fail to remember Amsterdam Air Terminal from prior. They are compelled to cut departures from the public authority on the grounds that of commotion, contamination, and the environment arrangement, which carries us to the last point on the grounds that as the world moves towards, and all the more harmless to the ecosystem place, the aeronautics business necessities to adjust as well, an ever-increasing number of urban communities and air terminals will place in limitations which powers aircrafts to search for the most effective jets. There are undeveloped organism has made the world's generally productive plane to date. Take this statement from Luis Carlos Alfonso Sr., VP Designing Turn of Events and Corporate Technique. Adam Breyer in an interview with Basic Flying, he said commotion's energy and a calm plane isn't productive plane. It's very coherent when you consider it. However, it's something special that is frequently ignored by almost everybody except one. Presently, that is the E2, and it's all because of Embraer's overachieving norms to attempt to raise the bar. It's their scrupulousness that will take care of significantly earlier than